satellite radio because it's based on one thing and one thing only, and that is rational thought. So welcome to the Wilkow Majority. I'm Andrew Wilkow. If we were branding this country to another country, what do you think would be a good PR campaign would involve? I mean, we have people coming here to this country illegally, and it seems like for all the wrong reasons. Would we want to advertise ourselves as a nation that believes in the rule of law, or would we want to advertise ourselves as something lawless, but also with some welfare state? So we don't have any real laws, but we'll give you free stuff. Well, there's a book out there called Be Unique or Be Ignored, a CEO's Guide to Branding by Marc Rudov. And given some of the things that our politicians have said over the past 10, 12 years, like we can't deport them all, right on up to, well, some of you will get citizenship, and if we feel bad for... We are branding ourselves as a nation absent of the rule of law, but somehow the bearers of free stuff. Joining me on the program right now is Marc Rudov, markrudov.com. How you doing, sir?
Great, Andrew. How are you?
All right, so how are we branding ourselves?
Well, your intro was pretty good. We used to have a brand in this country. Now, a brand, for those not familiar, is a value proposition. And our old brand used to be power, prosperity, pride, and liberty. The new brand of America is impotence, insolvency, inferiority, and fascism. And part of what's happening to this country is we are in total chaos. And you've dealt with companies that are in total chaos, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to deal with them. Well, a country in total chaos is the same thing. You don't want to deal with it. Does anybody want to trade with Greece? So when you have chaos, you are killing your brand. So this is what's happening right now, and there are reasons why we are in total chaos. And Barack Obama is a student and devotee of both Cloward and Piven and Saul Alinsky, who wrote Rules for Radicals. And what these three people have in common is they say to collapse capitalism, you overload the government with chaos. Now, there are 10 chaos campaigns that I will run through right now that we all recognize. Global warming, border disaster, IRS targeting, Benghazi, VA hospitals, Washington Redskins, income inequality, the Bergdahl swap, Obamacare, and the Arab Spring. Now, the Polish foreign minister just said, a strong alliance with the U.S. is worthless and even harmful because it creates a false sense of security. That tells me that other countries are now vocalizing out loud that our brand sucks, that we are impotence, insolvency, inferiority, and fascism. And how can you depend on a country with a brand like that? Well,
let me ask you this. You do media coaching, and you have this book, Be Unique or Be Ignored. I'm looking at your website right here. Have you ever been involved with a CEO or someone high up at a company that said something that was so contradictory to what was the brand's success that it actually maybe made the stock price drop or something?
Well, I give an example of that. It's actually not in the book because it happened after I published my book. But in a recent article I wrote about Apple, Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, actually said, if you don't believe in global warming, get out of our stock. Now, that was an asinine thing to say. And global warming isn't even real. And there was another article published today indicating that the global warming fanatics replaced real climate data with computer model data.
Yeah, we read from it earlier.
Okay,
but imagine. Let me. I'm trying to bring this back to something that Joe Biden said and some things that Barack Obama has said and Dick Durbin has said. That if imagine you had somebody like a Charles Koch that owned a substantial amount of stock in Apple and then dumped it just to make a point. That CEO who just said, if you don't believe in global warming, get the hell out of our stock. What would that do to the stock price?
Well, the stock actually did go down after Cook said that, and it was a ridiculous thing to say. And Branson of Virgin Airlines said the same thing. You know, if we hate you if you don't believe in global warming. Well, global warming doesn't exist. It's all bogus. But the thing is that you're right. When you say things, when you're the president of a country and you go around the world on an apology tour, what you're doing is you're trashing the brand. You're telling people we're not really that good. And you know what? They believe it. And if you look at what's happening in the Middle East right now, it's because nobody's afraid of America anymore.
Now, wait, I got to ask you about your dog because we're going to get into you wanted to get on today to talk to me about immigration. That's why I was setting up this whole brand thing. Maybe I could have got through it a little faster. You have an incident that involves your dog and an illegal immigrant.
Yes, we live out in that means agricultural country, and our property abuts a farm where the farmer is now growing tomatoes. And on Friday the 13th, I couldn't find our Chihuahua. So I searched the entire property and couldn't find him,
California, right?
California,
right.
Yes. And I went outside. Now, I knew that earlier that morning there were field workers working on the border between our property and the tomato field. And they were cutting weeds. And this is before I went out. And I heard some laughter and I heard some discussion, and they were very close. So when I was looking for my dog, I finally went out to where those workers were, and I found our dog shot in the chest with a bullet, dead. Now, it was horrifying. And he was still warm, and he was still supple, and the blood was bright red on his underside. And I had to bury him. It was traumatic would be an underscore. But I got the sheriff involved. And the sheriff had to say, we're basically dropping the case. Why? Because we can't identify the workers. Why? Because we know they're illegals. Now, every foreign worker is supposed to obtain an H-2A visa, which is a temporary work permit, to work on a farm. There are, from what I've gathered, there are about 500,000 illegals working on farms in this country. Only 65,000 get H-2A visas, which means 435,000 are anonymous, faceless, addressless, phone numberless, etc. So when the sheriff went to the farmer to say, who was working that day, I don't know. And we lost our dog, and we can't do anything about it. And this is part of the chaos.
You should get PETA involved in this. You should get PETA on it. What?
They're
what?
No, get this. Around where we live, there are what's called colonias. Now, a colonia is the Spanish word for colony. There are actual colonias, which are enclaves of illegal aliens living there. The U.S. government knows about it, the state government knows about it, and the sheriffs know about it. And they're doing nothing about it. And the kids who live there typically are gang members. So if you go to Google Maps, they're actually listed on Google Maps. So they're hiding in plain sight. Everybody looks the other way, and one of the unintended or maybe even intended consequences of having these undocumented people roaming our country is that they can commit criminal activities and never get caught because we don't know who they are.
Now, let me ask you back to this thing. If Joe Biden goes to Guatemala and says, quote, we're going to hold hearings with our judges consistent with international law and American law. We're going to send the vast majority of you back. Well, that's not everyone. If this president is always talking up the path to citizenship, If the media is no longer using the word illegal, they just use the word immigrant. We always hear progressives say, "Why do you hate immigrants?" I don't hate immigrants. I don't have a sympathy for illegal immigrants because they're breaking the law. If you have Dick Durbin invite illegal immigrants into the Senate and say one of you will be president, on one side, we're branding ourselves as weak and impotent. At the same time, we're saying, come here for all this free stuff and nobody will deport you.
Exactly. First of all, do you not think that the term illegal immigrant is an oxymoron? When you break into a country, you're not an immigrant.
You're an invader.
And I don't like the word illegal, or the phrase, or the term illegal immigrant. That's like saying if I rob a bank, I'm an illegal banker. You're not an immigrant. You're an invader. That's correct. So we have dumbed it down and made it politically correct to call these people immigrants. They're not immigrants. And they can walk around packing pistols, shooting dogs, innocent dogs, and not getting caught because they don't have to give their names. And all the people who say, yeah, but we should be nice to these people, this is what you've created. So we don't have our dog anymore, and we know that people can show up tomorrow. We won't know who they are. They can be packing, and they can shoot us too. And this is what chaos does. But if you're a devotee of Cloward and Piven and of Saul Alinsky, this is what you want. See, a lot of people think that Barack Obama is incompetent. He's not. He's extremely competent. He knew exactly what he was doing when he said he was going to transform America, and the people who loved it never opened the dictionary to say, what does transform mean? Yeah. What does fundamentally mean? They just
means unrecognizable. That's what it means.
That's exactly right. Now, you know what? It takes a lot of genius to create something. It takes no brains at all to destroy it. So you don't have to be a genius to ruin anything. You can take a hammer and smash an iPhone, which took a lot of genius to create. It took a lot of genius to create the U.S. Constitution and this country, but it takes nothing to bring it down.
All right,
so what we have is a country in total chaos, and if you're a foreign minister or a prime minister and you look at America now and you see impotence, insolvency, inferiority, and fascism, you don't want to ally with us, do you?
Unless you want free stuff.
And if you're a citizen of this country, you don't contact your congressman anymore because you've given up. Now, interestingly, I contacted our U.S. congressman last week because I'm trying to get somebody to care about this story. The assistant who answered the phone, and by the way, the office is about 5 or 6 miles from here, he had never even heard of the word Colonia. And yet they're all over the place. All over the place. So we have created a situation in this country of total chaos. It is hurting the citizens of this country, and it is, of course, hurting the brand. And if you want to see that graphic that I'm talking about, the old brand and the new brand, of course, it's in my book. And if you go to beuniqueorbeignored.com, you can get the book. And so it's a sad state of affairs that wherever you look, and that's why I listed 10 chaos campaigns, because that's what's going on all the time. And every time a new scandal emerges, instead of solving it, Barack Obama creates another chaos campaign. And so everything he's talking about, income inequality and all of that's all bogus. It's all to distract everybody from the real issues. And it's like a frog jumping in a lily pad from one to the next. It keeps the chaos going and going and going. And again, if you're dealing with any vendor, any merchant whose company is in total chaos, the brand sinks, and you don't want to do business with these guys anymore. And that's what's happening here. And to recover from this, it's going to take many years and many trillions of dollars.
No, we can secure that border anytime we want. If we can think of ways to secure the Iraqi border with Syria, we could think of ways to secure our own border. Mark, I got to take my break. At Marc Rudov, Rudov on Twitter, markrudolph.com. We'll speak to you next time.
It's thanks for having me on, Andrew, and I look forward to the next time.
Thank you. Sorry about your dog, too. We're right. They're wrong. That's the end of the story. The arguments on this radio program cannot be broken. Sirius XM Patriot.